is Tzvi Lebetkin, the Rabbi from another planet. Please like, share, and subscribe. And ring that little bell. Ring the little bell so you're notified when new videos drop. So if you're a long-time follower of my channel, you know I like the Trumpster, right? I've always been on the Trump model. I got the Trump train very, very early for a few reasons. First reason, I thought it'd be very, very funny. And it was. It was. I love seeing normies get uptight about him breaking the rules. Like, oh, what? He can't serve McDonald's at a White House dinner? Ooh. Okay, that's not the best side of me. I agree with you. That's not the best side of me, but it does make me laugh, okay? And I did thought it'd be funny in general. So the second reason I liked him is just how insanely successful he was, right? I think Donald Trump is a repudiation of the expert class. We don't, the experts tell us that we need to do this. The adults are in the room. The experts say this. Excuse me, your experts are complete failures that have screwed up everything they've touched. Your experts are morons. Yes, you are very educated morons. You're morons nonetheless. How do I know you're morons? I can look out the bloody window and see the world you made, you idiots. Donald Trump, on the other hand, world peace and a booming economy. So, I kind of like how successful it was because it was a repudiation, as I said, of this really elitist and classist worldview, which I just find absolutely repugnant. So that's the second reason. But the main reason I always like the Trumpster is this. It's that I feel he is a important step in a messianic process that will bring the world to a happiness, peace, and harmony, right? And I think that's kind of a strange worldview. I'm a Bible thumper, right? I am a Bible. I think the Old Testament is real. I get it. A lot of you out there might not. That's fine. And in fact, I like listening to people who have a different worldview than me. I find that interesting, right? But I believe it's real. I think it's both metaphorically and literally real, right? There'll be different things we can get into different discussions about, but that's essentially what I think. And I think we are actually living through something that is the messianic process, right? So I think he's quite possibly the Messiah for the nation of Edom. Edom was Jacob's pretty evil brother who was supposed to come good at the end of days, right? So, and the Bible describes, he is very, very, very sparing with words, the Old Testament, especially in Hebrew. And they describe him as essentially the orange man, right? So I'm like, whoa, that's good. It sounds like, somewhat parallel. And also he fits into the nature of what that character is. He's he's Donald Trump, right? Donald Trump, you wouldn't confuse Donald Trump for Mother Teresa, right? And for good reason. So that's why I've always liked Donald Trump, and I think his governance was blessed, right? I think he missed the Maguda into creating world peace and the best economy we've ever seen, or more that God arranged it that way. Because essentially, we're in a holy war, I think. The people who have the complete control over everything now, the White House, the press, everything, hate God. They hate any idea, and they hate a Judeo-Christian God. They hate any form of Judeo-Christian morality. They hate the idea of borders. They hate the idea of property. They hate the idea, unless it's theirs. They hate the idea of we're all intrinsically equal. Again, that's where this elitism comes. But they hate the idea of masculinity and femininity, where we've had culture decimated. Every male hero has been absolutely decimated over the last 5 to 10 years, and I think it's been done purposely because they absolutely hate those ideas, because I think they all emanate from a Judeo-Christian biblical origin, right? They hate Christmas, all those things they hate them with every fiber of their being, right? And I think Donald Trump was was kind of a general against this absolute hatred of Judeo-Christian morality. And I thought he's a weird general to have. And also, it works out in my opinion with Jewish philosophy, in that the satanic forces of the world, we call them the Satan, the satanic forces of the world wouldn't really pay attention to Donald Trump. He's a bit of a gross guy, he's Donald Trump. If you want to tell me he slept with porn stars, I'll be like, well, I would probably believe that, right? That's the nature of who this character is, who this Asov is, right? But they say at the end of the day, he comes good, and he becomes a good guy. So that's what I think is happening. So the question now is, what's going on, right? This time we're in right now is a very low time if you for anybody who is not on board with the transgendered surgeries, right? The transgendered underage surgeries that sterilizing children, that the 9-month abortions, the postpartum abortions. People who aren't on board on that. This is a very depressing time because we come to realize there's no naturalistic way that we can ever end this, right? There was recently these elections in these midterms, and they've. I'll say this the way the Democrats would say it. They've ended the scourge of voter suppression, which strangely enough also means they win all the time now, right? There was a red wave in the 2022 election. The Republicans got more votes than they ever have across the board. It was an insane turnout, right? And still the Democrats just got a little bit more every time. They had to count, for a good few days before they found them. But they just happened to get a little bit more. And I think it's because of this thing called ballot harvesting, which so I just think the dynamics of the way elections set up is not about convincing people of what arguments are best or who is best. It's about getting the right numbers of paper, pieces of ballots. That's it, and that's really it. And I think they've worked out a way of doing it with at the same time of making everybody's lives absolutely miserable and failing in every way possible, right? I think they've worked out a way of doing it. I think they worked out in 2020, and I think that's what ballot harvesting is. I think there may be some shenanigans going on as well, especially in Arizona, Maricopa County. Weirdly enough, all the Republican areas, a bunch of their machines didn't work on election day, right? And their votes kind of got thrown away. I don't know. There's a lot of things that seem to be needed a full investigation, and that couldn't be morally certified anyway, which of course it was, right? But I think people of my worldview have realizing that there's no naturalistic way whatsoever we could ever end this, right? The again, transgender surgery for children, it's never going to stop, right? This assault on Judeo-Christian morality is never ever going to stop until it's wiped out, right? There's no way, we have no earthly defense against it. So it's a very, very hard time. So the question is, what now? Now, Donald Trump is trying to get the nomination to run for the Republican nominee. But even if he wins, I don't see how he has any possibility of winning. So again, from a Bible-thumping point of view, what the hell's going on, right? What the hell is going on? That's what I was talking about on last night on my live stream, which is what we're going to be watching right now. Before we get into it, like, share, subscribe, comment. All those things are very good. I look at I look at the Bible. I think. Yeah, if you saw Battlestar Galactica, they had this one line they used over and over again and said, all this has happened before and all this is going to happen again. I feel like, pastor's prologue. And so I'm looking at the story of the Exodus, particularly the part where the Israelites have to sacrifice a lamb. Now, what is a lamb? What does a lamb mean? All that stuff I think is important. But yeah, what now? I'm going to hand over to myself from last night, and hopefully I will explain. New World Order Biden regime, where we're going to be on a social credit system, right? And that's coming. That's coming. But I think society is going to collapse before then, right? I think it seems to be happening across the world, happening in Iran, happening in China. I had a rabbi I was talking to today, said he thinks that society is just going to collapse from within, right? And then to implode. I know, I'm more optimistic, right? I'm more optimistic. So, I have two bits of news, right? I think two bits of news. Firstly, how Donald Trump could absolutely win the presidency, right? I have to tell you, it's completely impossible. It's completely impossible, right? As a political strategist, I would say Mr. Trump's chances are 0.0. It's completely impossible, right? Even if he gets the nomination, which is iffy, he could get the nomination, right? The Republican Party may be still blunderingly incompetent to be honest enough within themselves, right? Whoops! To let him win the nomination, right? I think what happened was this: in 2016, we are being programmed, right? And we have been programmed for decades by television, by media, by news stories,
And I think we're being programmed by the intelligence services, essentially. The idea, the name conspiracy theory was invented by the intelligence services to discredit anybody who questioned if J. Harvey Oswald was the lone gunman of JFK. Oh, well, you do know that was J. Edgar Hoover had him killed. That was actually the FBI that did it. So there's that. And that's not even being a conspiracy theory. It's like, well, that clearly happened then, right? So, so I think there is zero chance that Donald Trump could win the presidency, right? And there's one guaranteed way of doing it. Firstly, you have to recognize there's zero chance, right? They control everything. They control everything. So how I think elections are won is there's this reality created, the narratives are created that are genuinely accepted. Narratives like Republicans are racist. Narratives that are like, Republicans want to take away the right of abortion, right? And people believe these narratives, right? They absolutely believe these narratives, even though they're nonsense. If you look into any of them, they're always nonsense, right? And people get committed to these narratives, but they're not really paying attention, right? So then election time comes around, and most people don't vote, right? They're like, there, and you get one activist mum, right? And I'd say these white mums, they're not so great for the world. Nothing is. What was I going to say? Nothing. Yeah, nothing. We all become exactly what we hate to be if we're not doing the right thing, right? And I think the thing that these women would hate to be is a sign that let's say the people who oppose women voting, right, in like the 1800s, like the suffrage movement, right? They had a time tunnel, their time space visualized, and they could see the future. And they see these women like voting in, like, yay, open borders, and inflation, yay, and trans everything. Yay! High crime! Yay! We're all free! Yay! But they really like all this shit, right? So they go and get everybody's ballots, right? And apparently there's a ballot harvesting thing. People are dropping off thousands. Like, I can't believe thousands of ballots, and they're all legal. Right. Meanwhile, on the Republican side, everybody goes on data vote, and weirdly, the machines don't work. Right, and you can't complain. They get it, like, the guy was going to wasn't going to certify the election, and then he said, "I have to certify it, otherwise they're going to arrest me." I'm like, "What? So there's no chance of Trump winning whatsoever. Right? It's completely impossible. Right? Completely impossible. I added on to that. They control social media, everything apart from Twitter, media and social media, and they're freaking out about Twitter, right? And they control everything. They control the horizontal. They control the vertical. They do. What you want to say there? Yeah, my speech is controlled by the whim of 5 corporations. Yeah, that's true. And I've learned the count out. We all have. We've all learned to be slaves. Right, so that's just reality. There's no possibility Donald Trump would win again, or anybody unprescribed would ever win again. Right, there may be a facade of elections going on, but I think Crowder said it very clearly and really eloquently that governments essentially have become the enforcement tool of about 5 corporations. And that's because they just control the politicians. And it's actually true. I mean, you see how these farm protests are happening. We have no hope whatsoever. That's the first thing to realize, like how intensely hopeless the situation is, right? I think the only hope is this. I think it's like this. You know, I look at the Bible for antecedents for everything, right? So there's this bit in it where Abraham's was it brother-in-law Lot was kidnapped. He had to go to war against these like superpower. These four kings of like thousands and thousands of men, right? And he had 400, right? It's like, I guess we're all gonna die then, right? It's like yeah, odds were not good, right? And he said, yeah, but it's me and God, right? If it's me and God, the chances are quite good, right? The chances are quite good, and yeah, you do see that again in the Exodus story. The last thing that happens is that the Israelites, they have to make a sacrifice of a lamb and put the blood on the doorpost. Now, what is that about? See, everything's about symbology. People forget about symbology. People don't know people don't think about symbology, but we live with symbology all the time. Like, imagine a sociologist looking back at our present day or before, like 10 years ago, right? And wondering what the significance of the apple was, right? It seemed to be a thing of pristine, not anymore, right? But it seemed to be a thing of pristine back then. I can't think of a brand that is anymore, right? But back then it was, right? What was that's what symbolism is. So firstly, I asked this rabbi friend if he knew anything about it. He said he didn't know how it was worshipped, but it was always a symbol of two things. It was a symbol of wealth, because raising lamb was all apparently if you work it out, you can make a lot of money doing it, apparently, right? And it was also a symbol of subservience. And it struck me the lamb was such a symbol of this elitist worldview, right? It's firstly subservience, this communist subservience to a state, a trust of the state, but it's also this like snobbish elitism that wants things that are like beautiful and luxury, right? You know, it's like the Hillary Clinton kind of like, I can see that's what it's like, you know. So how do you make a sacrifice to that? I don't know. I really don't know. But I do know here's what I think. I think the only way for Trump to win an election is for him to say he's powerless and make an appeal to God publicly. And I don't think he would ever do that, right? But I think that's his only hope, right? I think it's only hope. If he would say it's hopeless, there's ballot harvesting, there's nothing we can do. It's all legal. There's nothing we can do. They own the legislators. There's nothing we can do. It's checkmate. It's happened, right? The universal mail-in voting, it's like, oh no, it's like we got to get rid of, voter suppression, they call it. No voter suppression. Like, okay, we don't have an electoral security anymore. Well, that's it. What can you do? Anyway, the only thing he can do is say, listen, this is hopeless. The only person who can help us is God. And I say, whatever faith you are, right? I'm a Christian. You could be a Jew. You could be a Muslim. You could be an atheist, right? You could just be a believer in the group will, right? And you can pray with us and say, please send us a miracle to release us from the bondage, because we can't do it. And we can't. We're like, I think, I'm ahead of the curve. It might take people a couple of years to realize this, but we can't. Why? We can't. And I think we're going to get to that point. So the Israelites, they had to make this sacrifice on this lamb, right? This ideology. How you doing this in this day and age? I have no idea. I have no idea. But they had 10 plagues on their side by that time to do it. So, you should get some positive sides, right? I would suggest. But yeah, that's the only way I say that Trump could win an election. And I think Kanye is being used by Milo to destroy Trump, and I think and the Republican Party is damaging. Yeah, it's damaging both Trump and the Republican Party. Not that they're the same thing at all, right? And I think it's done out of spite for Milo. I think it's done by Nick Fuentes because he's a evil person by the looks of it. I mean, I don't know anything about him. He just seems a bit dodgy to me, right? He's like, again, saying it's a bad thing that Trump disavowed white supremacy, I find confusing. Right? That's genuinely speaking. I'm on the side that says it's a good thing he did that. Anyway, I digress. Anyway, so I think he's being manipulated, and I think there's probably some intelligence services either manipulating the situation or manipulating him, right? But I think it's a pebble. It's a shot in this fourth generational war, right? I keep telling people, don't fall for it. Don't fall, but everybody does. Okay, so that's what leaving conclusion. Where we got to understand we're powerless, man. We just got to understand we're powerless, and it's like if you ever done a 12-step program, that's basically the first step, isn't it? Like understanding it, isn't that the first step? I don't know. Isn't it? I really don't know. But it's the serenity bit. It's like you realize you're powerless and you're asking for a higher power to help you. Right, and it's very successful. I think that's where God wants to bring us to, right? The sooner we get there, the less painful it's going to be. Although it does seem to be a winter of discontent coming up. It seems to be that every society is about to erupt from the inside out. I think we're going to be okay in Israel, but I don't think you're doing good. If you can, I would move to Israel now, right? If you can, I'll move to Israel now.
My name's Tzvi Lebetkin, the Rabbi from another planet. Please like, share, and subscribe, and ring that little bell. Ring the little bell so you are notified when new videos drop.